useful context is for people to hear who you are before we dive into that.
Yeah, my name is Jon Fletcher. I'm the Chief AI Strategist for the Learning and Performance Institute, the LPI, who are a global governing body to support the learning profession, and essentially leading on workplace learning. So helping everybody understand what AI is, understanding what it means for them, what it means for the organisation, and how they can start to use it in their role, how they can use it to support employee development and employee engagement, and then how organisations using AI in the wider context.
Nice. Had a very mid-30s realisation this week that maybe LinkedIn is my most used app now on my phone, but the beauty of that is it means I'm consuming some great content, including from yourself. And recently you ran a poll about how people are currently engaging with AI.
Yeah.
So, what did you learn from that? What were kind of the key responses?
There was, within that and a lot of other polls that are being run by the likes of Don Taylor and Egler, a lot of it's coming out with people who are either trying to do it to improve the productivity of their role, which was the main 64% of people, respondents, came back with it. The other part is they just want to learn and understand. So there's still that unknown of what does it actually mean. And that was at 34%, and that's the majority of it. And so for me, when we look at these type of data points, there's still a real lack of understanding, real lack of clarity, and a real confusion of what does it mean for me, what does it mean for my team and my function, and then how do I use it?
Yeah, I guess to pick up with the lower one of them there, the curiosity piece, like how can I use it and understand? Do you have any advice for people who are in that position where they do want to start dabbling with it, but they don't want to be one of these for the sake of it people where I'm just using it for, without a real purpose?
So when November 22 came out, ChatGPT got opened up to the world went crazy and bonkers. And a lot of the conversation was about how we automate all of our jobs. Which was the wrong conversation to be having. The conversation we should be having is how do we augment what we do? So if we think about a content design process, and if I'm a content creator, how do we make sure that we augment certain elements of that design process utilizing a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini or something, maybe you may have got an internal solution. How do you use that tool to help me drive efficiencies and productivity gains in that process? Not trying to automate the whole process, but augment what you are currently doing. So my bit of advice would be is look at some of the processes that you follow, the day-to-day tasks that you do as an individual, and work out how AI is going to augment that, not necessarily automate the whole process.
Yeah. Cool, I love that. And when you're talking about productivity, actually, I think augmenting is a nice way to segue into that, because people are maybe thinking about productivity means output, or productivity means just doing more. And that isn't necessarily being productive. But if you're looking at augmenting, so I think the productivity one is interesting. People want to be productive, but it kind of needs a bit more consideration there as well.
Yeah, productivity means a lot of things to a lot of people. It could be as simple as doing something a little bit faster. Yeah. It could be initiating a brainstorming session just to get some ideas down, when sometimes you just have a complete blank kind of mindset and you don't know what to do. Productivity could be as simple as reviewing a piece of text to try and simplify it using smart brevity principles, for example. It really is down to the individual of what that productivity gains are for them. Not, all of a sudden you're going to get 35% increase in your production time across the board. That is great, but that requires a lot of consideration, use case planning, metric identification, a whole project sat behind it.
Cool. Yeah, it's always about being intentional, I find, with these sort of things. We're talking about, maybe people using AI currently. What are you seeing in terms of how it is being used? The good, the bad, the ugly? Like, what are some of the good and bad things you're seeing?
So, the majority of it is being used in the content creation process. There's two elements to that. One is the design. So bringing it into, if you might use ADDI as a model to create content, how do you bring AI in and augment your content creation process? So that's number one. The second one is they're starting to dabble around how do we drive personalized experiences. That for me is still a little bit woolly when people talk about that. So I'm kind of like, okay, what do you mean by personalized experiences? What does it actually look like, or how does it manifestate itself? The other piece, I think, is just purely exploration. I mean, being here at Learning Tech, with every single I say every single time, the majority of suppliers are talking about AI. Yeah. They're talking about AI-powered LMS systems. What that actually means is that as part of their development, they've got, or the solution, they've got the ability to generate a description based off of content. Yeah. Or they've got the ability to create an output or a decision based off of information. That's the basic elements of it all. And that's what they're talking about as AI-powered. And it's the old marketing trick. If you don't have AI into it, then you're not AI powered. It's quite interesting. When I speak to a lot of leaders, leaders within organizations, CLOs, they're actually saying, I don't want to work with suppliers who are talking about it. Suppliers also don't realize that they also potentially need to go back through the procurement process because they've now got integrated AI, and so they have to go through all of the RFP and RFI because they fundamentally changed the architecture of their system, which was originally approved. But nonetheless, I think a lot of it is around trying to drive that automation thing. The other one is content providers, trying to create the utopia of a complete end-to-end solution to build out AI content.
Cool. And in terms of maybe opportunities, we can see some of the pitfalls here. Do you see any really good opportunities for people to actually use AI effectively? Are there any, I don't want to say quick wins, but are there some of those intentional things people can do?
Yeah, so personally for me, I'm heavily dyslexic. And I've brought in I use ChatGPT, I use Bart and Claude in order to bring that into my flow of work when I create my content. So I augment my process. I create everything myself, and then subsequently I use AI to support in fine-tuning, making sure it's right, accurate, but I never rely on it. I always have that human element. Actually, has it changed the context of what I'm trying to say? I would always say, look at things you do day to day and think about how you can go and play with AI, go and explore how you can bring it into your flow of work. Two things to consider. One, does your business allow that? What are the policies that the business is driven from it? And the second one is be prepared to fail. You will fail. You will type a prompt in. It will give you a really bad response and you'll go, right, well, this is rubbish. Think about the prompt you're doing. Think about the better the prompt or the better the question you ask it, the more detailed, the better the response will be.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about context earlier, and actually the skill really is prompting because you need to give enough context for anything to really generate something meaningful, I guess. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. I wanted to change topics slightly because I've seen you talk a bit about skills recently, and we often talk about the move to maybe like a skills-first learning away from content. But what do you see, I guess, the importance of having that skills focus for L&D teams as?
There's two things. Firstly is, as an L&D function, we need to have a baseline understanding of AI. That's AI literacy. There are 5 elements to it. Understanding AI, ethical considerations, and so forth. For me, AI doesn't impact skills. AI impacts the tasks that you do in your day-to-day job. In order to evolve the skills or develop the skills to support AI or the utilization of AI to drive productivity or efficiency gains, you need to understand how it's doing that. If you don't understand how do you know what skills you need to evolve in order to be able to do it? Now, this is also dependent on the definition that an organisation gives skills, because sometimes it's quite loose, sometimes it's quite restrictive. Yeah. But ultimately, for me, it's about making sure that we understand the task that somebody is doing, the flow of their work. How do we then bring AI into it? At the moment, a lot of organisations are putting Copilot out there for people to go and explore, but they're not giving anybody training on how to use Copilot within their flow of work. So again, the adoption of that is becoming really, really poor. So when we think about things in a really clear way, and skills are still important. It's a currency that we can use to benchmark, but I think we need to start thinking about, okay, well, how is AI impacting the task that somebody's doing? How do we then make sure that we are supporting the development of the skills in the context of the task that they're doing?
Funny enough, this has come up in conversations I've had before, not just in the skills AI space, but putting the cart before the horse. So, like you say, asking people to use a tool before we're giving them the skills to use a tool, or asking people to give feedback loads before we've given them the capability or the ability to give good feedback, like to structure it in a useful, consistent way. So I do think there is an issue here with people have been steaming headfirst into something without doing any of the stuff we just spoke about. What's the problem it needs to solve? What's the day-to-day? How are we actually enabling people?
Yeah, and I think it's just going back to the fundamentals. Is there needs to be a fundamental understanding of what AI is, what does it mean for me from an ethical perspective, from an organisational perspective. 2 soft skills that are really important are fact-checking and critical thinking. Fact-checking actually is the right solution, and critical thinking is, should I actually be using a generative AI solution in my work, my flow? And I think for me, we really need to be focusing on understanding how AI or an AI solution is impacting the task that we're doing, and then how do we develop the skills to enable that task to deliver why you're bringing it in. So what is the use case around it? Is it efficiency gains? Is it productivity gains, or whatever it may be? But nonetheless, make sure that you've got a clear, robust adoption strategy to support the development of that.
Awesome. That is a brilliant note to end on, because it is succinct advice people can go and apply. So Jon, thanks for chatting to me today, and links to connect with you will all be in the description of this one.
Thank you very much.